What's going on, Summoners? Welcome back to another ProGuides Wild Rift video. I'm Kangas, and today I'm taking a look at the only macro guide that you will ever need for Wild Rift. If you're curious as to what macro is and how you can use it to win more games, then hit that sub button and let's get right into it.
A lot of people don't know what macro is, and that's why I'm going to explain to you what it stands for. Macro describes the part of decision making. Think about your recall timings, when to back off from CS due to tracking the enemy jungler, and deciding when it's worth to invest ultimate abilities or summoner spells for a kill. But there's way more than only these few options. More than that, people usually differentiate between micro and macro. Now, micro describes your mechanics as a player, how good you can pilot a champion. Keep in mind, it doesn't really matter if you're the most talented player in a mechanical sense. If you're always in the wrong place at the wrong time, you still won't reach the very top of the ladder. So imagine this, you get a lot of kills in the laning phase thanks to your superior mechanics. However, you don't use these kills to influence the map. You neither help your team, nor do you apply pressure in the side lanes when you have to. Outside of the 1v1 scenario, you're not really doing anything. So if your team is struggling, you're not doing anything to change that. Wild Rift is more than just trying to rack up kills from isolated 1v1s. Kills are just the very first step of accelerating towards claiming even more. Another key difference is the fact that a mechanical player comes up with things on the spot. They don't really factor in a lot of the different variables that are in play. They simply respond to what they see in the best appropriate manner. On the other hand, a macro-oriented player looks for so-called kill opportunities. They know about their damage and how to play a matchup on respective levels. Their goal is to trade in a way where they can use their HP and mana as a resource to put the enemy laner in a position where they cannot win anymore. However, if said enemy laner chooses to stay, the macro-oriented player will just then kill them. This kill was prepared by slowly draining the enemy's resources and carefully trading within specific rules. Compared to the mechanical player, there was little to no variance at play, simply for the reason that everything was planned with certain rules in mind. Now, before we delve into more macro concepts and what we can do with them, check out our Discord in the description down below. If you're still learning about Wild Rift and what macro micro is, all the differences between the two of them, you want to join our community because there's plenty more that are learning with you. Alright, so now that you all got an idea what macro stands for, we'll now move on to our next topic. A big part about macro is learning how to play from behind. Especially in Wild Rift, still is something that happens very frequently. A lot of times you'll actually see teams try to surrender just after losing the first dragon. Now that's only 4 minutes into the game, by the way. Now the lesson here is to learn how to play from behind and allowing other people to carry. You cannot perform amazingly in every single one of your games. In some, you'll have some unfortunate things happen to you. That ranges from tapping the wrong spell, missing something, or literally anything else. And that is okay, it happens. So losing lane isn't as uncommon as you may think it is, but for some reason, people think that it's just not winnable after losing lane. The lane part is only the very early stage of the game, and that sets you up for your mid game. A champion getting a lead doesn't automatically mean that you're going to win or lose. There's still other factors that are at play here. For those factors, you may differentiate between early game and scaling champions. Now, an early game champion needs to snowball ahead, because if they don't, they just end up being dead weight due to how their kit functions. Now, the most iconic example of this is Lee Sin. You'll rarely see a Lee Sin doing work in the later stages of the game. His kit just isn't on par with other champions in the late game. An Evelynn, on the other hand, is not dependent on snowballing pre-level 5. She can take it rather slow and start accelerating once she hits her power spike, and trust me, everybody hates that power spike. Another prime example of this is Jinx in the super late game. Other AD carries are not weak by any means, but Jinx, thanks to her superior range in combination with a rapid fire cannon and red buff, will just straight up run you down. It's all about identifying a crucial concept, win conditions. Now before we get into what those are, it's time for our question of the day. When we think about macro, oftentimes we think about late game, so I want to know, what's your favorite scaling champion? Or can you even name one? Now, I won't spoil my opinion on it, but I want to know yours in the comments down below. Alright, so anyway, kills on their own are not really a win condition. They help you get ahead, but what do you do with being ahead? How do you translate your lead into a lead for your entire team? Picture yourself playing mid lane. You have a Jinx Lulu in the Dragon lane and a Tryndamere in the Baron lane. Who do you think is scaling harder and will be a better lane to play around? Just think of all the times that you saw a Jinx Lulu absolutely smash their opposition when fed. So you want to always be looking at what champions can do and try to identify who you want to be strong alongside you. Other than helping out other lanes, you can also create a multitude of win conditions yourself. As a Baron laner, you might find it hard to group up with a team or just believe that you won't win through team fighting. So therefore, your idea of creating a win con is split pushing. By doing so, you'll draw pressure away from your team and give them an easier time to come back into the game or find advantages themselves. For that, it's really important to understand how the flow of the game works though. Where are the enemies? How many can you take on at the same time? As a consequence, you'll have to walk back and forth to make sure that you're not dying to rotations. You're only really valuable to your team if you're alive and don't consistently die while split pushing. More than that, also objectives classify as win conditions themselves, but don't let yourself get fooled. Losing all normal dragons is not a problem compared to losing the Elder Dragon. The Elder Dragon is an insane objective that only spawns once per game and grants ridiculous buffs to its slayers. Following the previous train of thought, as a scaling comp that isn't strong yet, it's no problem to drop a few dragons in exchange for scaling freely. And once you've scaled, you can start contesting those objectives without a worry on your mind. So now that we covered what some win conditions are, next up we got strategy as a whole. In lower elo brackets, you'll see a lot of fighting, but what for? Many times there isn't any logical explanation as to why there's constant fighting, apart from the idea that players just love killing each other. As the game is still relatively young and a lot of its players transitioned from other mobile games, it will take some time to develop a proper meta strategy. For now, it's all come to dragon at minute 4 or we surrender, tilt, or just AFK. Believe me, this happens a lot, even in the higher ranks. As you see, they don't really take your previous points into consideration and just let their emotions get the best of them. I know it's annoying to lose sometimes, but losing something doesn't mean that you're losing everything. Fights should always be taken upon reaching favorable power spikes. Imagine you have a completed item and your opponent only has components. Well, then you're just likely to be stronger than them and should be looking to fight. The same principle applies to cooldowns. Did you just see the enemy waste their ultimate ability and summoner spells, but yours are still available? Well, hey, then look for a fight. Look to pressure the enemy. Punish them for their mistakes. This can happen from the very early laning phase to the very latest stages of the game. Fight for a reason and fight when you're strong. Picking fights simply for the sake of fighting is rarely worth it and will just lead to a lot of frustration. And on that note, the ability to pick fights is also heavily influenced by vision. There's telegraphed fights that will likely occur in the form of big objectives such as Dragon, Baron, and Herald. To be in the best position for these fights, you need proper vision set up in the respective perimeter. Due to the fact that those objectives spawn at certain times, you can build up vision early enough before the objectives actually appear. This way, you'll see what is happening around that area early enough, because the enemy might just trap there. This leads us to another benefit of vision. With vision, you're able to ambush the enemy team. An entirely lit up enemy jungle will show you exactly where the enemy is going and specifically how many are coming. Now it's on you to utilize that information. Wait around a corner where they're walking or just wait in a bush. Whatever you end up doing, it's up to you. But if you want to win, you need to take any advantage given to you. Finding proper timings to place wards is also a tough task. If you're not durable enough to survive a 1v2 or 2v3 situation, I recommend just paying close attention to the map instead. Once you see the enemy jungler on the other side of the map, then it's safe for you to walk into their jungle and get some deep vision. Now this next concept is one that we're all very familiar with because it's applicable in the real life too. Time is money. Ask yourself, what are you doing with your time in the game? Are you idling or are you doing something meaningful? Meaningful in a sense where you're actively working towards gaining advantages. What are you doing in the jungle? And why are you clearing too many of your own camps rather than contesting Scuttle? Why do you spend so much time farming your jungle after you've hit power spikes when you could do something with that? Being aware of what's happening around you is the primary requirement of using your time efficiently. Check laners' HP and mana bars. What do they want to do? What can they not do? If your mid laner is full life and has a lot of mana left, whereas the enemy laner is close to dying, it might be a good call to dive or contest something in the river. Another situation where you have to think about the future is when you look at your own resource management. If you've just finished pushing a wave into the enemy tower but can't dive, well, why are you dancing around under their tower granting them vision of what you're doing? Instead, you can utilize this time for a small recall to get an item advantage. And more than that, you can also just try to rotate for a play or just simply get vision for your lane. What you can also utilize in lane is the power of zoning. By zoning, you deny the enemy team gold and XP, which delays their power spikes. Why are you letting the Alistar run at you level 1 when you're a Janna? Just hit him, punish him. Take away his HP so that he can't look for an all-in on level 3 when he has access to his core abilities. Taking away options from the enemy is granting yourself advantages. You're forcing the enemy team to idle, and when time is money, idling is not something you want to be doing. So here's another example. If the enemy team is taking the Herald while the Dragon is still alive, what are you doing? Why aren't you calling your team to do the Dragon? The enemy's currently taking something away from you, so just farming your own minions is not being proactive. That's even considered a suboptimal use of time. For every action on the map, there needs to be a reaction. If the enemy constantly steals stuff away from your team, you'll find yourself falling behind more and more over the course of time with little hope of coming back. To summarize it all in very basic terms, think about what is available on the map and respond appropriately. The enemy is diving your Baron laner and you can't get there in time? Well, don't even try. Think about what you can do on the other side of the map to compensate for that play. Maybe they're diving your Baron laner, but then you can just take Dragon for free. There's always something that you can trade. Wild Rift is a constant game of giving and taking. Sometimes you'll be forced to give up a lot, but it's on you to think about things that you can take back in return.
So there you have it. Now you're better equipped to carry your games not just through your mechanics, but macro as well. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed the video, then make sure you hit that like button and sub to the channel so that you don't miss our future Wild Rift content. Also, don't forget to answer the question of the day in the comments below, and also check out the community Discord through the link in the description. That's it for today, so best of luck on the Rift, everybody. Stay hydrated, and I'll see you next time.